Carlson brought it to me and set it on my desk. She goes, I left you a present. Oh.
1759.
You're almost there.
Draw 'em.
What is a Knox box?
Draw them
Huh?
out.
No, okay, Knox box?
Knox box?
Oh, it's those emergency boxes
For what?
for, it's a call box. You can push a button and it'll call into the police station.
Oh, like the one for emergency in the
Yeah, those blue,
campus?
with the blue,
ones?
yeah,
That's
that's a
called
Knox box. Yep.
And Knox, KNOX.
KNOX.
Mhm.
Like Knox Fort,
Mhm.
Fort Knox.
Yep,
Oh, we keep the gold there.
Oh,
For
this
some-
is so tiny.
Knox College. I
There's
don't know how
a
it got
such
that
a
way.
thing?
Hmm?
There is such a thing?
Yep, down in Guilford.
You can talk to
Illinois.
Illinois.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Down by South Superior.
Oh,
Tiny little liberal arts college.
all right.
Mm-hmm. Ready?
Yes.
I'm ready if you are. Okay. Call to order the May 9th, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission. Roll call, please.
Katharina Barbie,
Here.
Vicki Buckley, David Castro,
Here.
Matthew Kroll,
Here.
Deborah Neer, Jerry Wright,
Here.
and Chair Christina Atherton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And I will try not to cough too much tonight, so excuse me if it gets going here. Approval of tonight's agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? And if none, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Barbie,
Second?
second by Castro. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Approval of the April 18th, 2018 minutes. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
I move to approve the minutes of April 18, 2018.
Motion moved by Castro,
Second.
second by Wright. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. This is the public participation portion of the meeting where we open the floor to anyone that has any comments not related to the agenda. If there's anyone in the public that would like to come and comment, we welcome you to the podium. And I'll note there is none, so we'll move on to the next item. New business, public hearing on a petition by the Julio Carrillo there's an extra word in there, sorry. Public hearing on a petition by Julio Carrillo representing the owner EYM Realty of Illinois LLC, in parenthesis EYM Restaurant Group, for approval of zoning map amendment from the GC General Commercial District to the PDC Planned Development Commercial District, and approval of a planned development plan for a .71 acre site located at 701 West Lincoln Highway. Proposed is an approximately 6,400 square foot new building that will include a Pizza Hut restaurant and other commercial uses, with associated improvements in consideration to approve waivers to the Unified Development Ordinance for parking, building and parking setbacks, maximum site coverage, and a planned development less than 2 acres, and other approvals as required for the subject property to allow for the construction as proposed. So I open the public hearing and ask if the petitioners would like to begin. If you'll go to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Greg Carroll. I'm with Linear Architecture.
Could you pull your microphone up just a little? Thanks.
I'm representing EYM Group. Julio Carrillo couldn't make it this evening. The address is 701 West Lincoln Highway.
Your address?
Pardon me?
Isn't that the home address of the person?
Oh. Can we get your address? Not your home address, but your business address is fine?
It's in Dallas, Texas.
Okay. Thank you.
We're here tonight to propose a new site or a new redevelopment of the existing Pizza Hut site at 701 West Lincoln Highway. I kind of thought first we might run through the exterior elevations because I think more discussion will be on the site itself. What we're proposing to do is remove the I'm sorry. not used to that.
That's okay.
Remove the existing building and the parking lot, the site, and regrade it, and build it's approximately 6,490 square foot building with a Pizza Hut end cap and we're assuming two retail spaces. It could, certainly go to one or even three, retail spots. You can see on the corner with regard to the exterior materials, we're bringing in some of the, or a lot of the branding that Pizza Hut requires on these. The red, the stone or tile rather, and then this cement fiber sign band that goes around the top. The rest of the building, however, is very similar to a lot of the other new construction you have around town with the brick and split face CMU, wainscot, and ephes for the sign bands and along the back of the building. For the rooftop screening, we do have parapets, but we're going to propose that we screen the rooftop units with I guess an add-on that goes around the units themselves. And this just shows the sign, the monument sign out front, and the trash enclosure construction for that, using the same CMU that it'd be a full-size CMU as opposed to a 4-inch, but for the enclosure. And that was just what we were assuming we'd be breaking the spaces up as. The Pizza Hut restaurant, we're proposing a 42-seat. The Pizza Hut corporate has approved the floor plan that we have now, and that's what we're going with. In the other two spaces, we're considering those retail. We did that, for parking. We know there's not going to be another restaurant in there. The owner doesn't want another restaurant in there, and we're assuming, based on my experience in the retail, that there's roughly about 30% of the retail space that's back of house. Of course, varies, but that's an average that I've taken from a lot of the ones that I've worked on. So this is the site, that's the existing building, and I guess what I would consider kind of a C of a parking lot that we're going to get rid of. And that's the proposed site. Keeping the two entries to the lot as they are, except on Lincoln Highway, we're proposing a right-in, right-out, just due to its proximity to the Carroll Avenue. Now with the building, we were pushing it towards Carroll Avenue, which is reason for the petition to go to the PDC. With the amount of pedestrian traffic on this street and University right across the Carroll, we felt that this would be a lot more attractive than a building kind of tucked all the way into the back of the lot to the pedestrian traffic. So that, I think it's going to be a lot more, I can't think of the name of it, but there's where the Verizon and the Starbucks is down the street, pushed as far back as that is. It's actually difficult to see from the road, and when you get up to it, if you're walking, you've got nothing but parking lot in front of you. Here we've got an option for just a quick, easy access off of Carroll, but other than that, just a very short walk across, the parking lot to get to the building. So we thought that that was a very important aspect of this. apologize, this isn't larger, but you can see the amount of trees and shrubs and so forth that we're adding to the site will make it also a very pedestrian-friendly and I believe attractive, especially on that corner. It's a pretty high-profile corner. And that concludes, oh, no, I'll open it up to questions.
We'll go through, we'll let the city comment, and then we'll do our public hearing.
Okay.
And then we'll ask questions
Okay.
if needed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Should I stay right here?
You can go ahead and have a seat.
Okay.
Yep,
Thanks.
thanks. Okay, so I open it to the city.
All right, thank you. You have in your packets the staff report and plans, and I also provided handed out a sample motion for you and a copy of the latest plans, which you have most of those, and there's a few revisions on them. But going through the report, the applicant noted the location, the request, again, rezoning from general commercial to planned development, some waivers regarding to accommodate the new Pizza Hut restaurant with the 2 additional potential tenant spaces. They'll be demoing building. We worked a lot with the applicant to try and beforehand to locate the building on the site to make it work best in terms of pedestrian-friendly access, aesthetics, truck movements through the site for delivery trucks. They originally had the building towards the back, which created a little awkward access through the parking lot for some vehicles and trucks. So you have all the background information. Again, they are dealing with couple setbacks. One is the setback to the north. There's apartments to the north. They're zoned residential, and there's a 50-foot setback, building setback required from residential areas to commercial. So they are complying with that. The setbacks are shown on your plans. Dash line, they're complying with that. And then there's a 40-foot building setback from Carroll Avenue and Lincoln Highway per the UDO. And they're infringing in the 40-foot setback on Carroll Avenue. The existing Pizza Hut restaurant's about 15 feet from the right-of-way of Carroll Avenue. The proposed building will be the same distance away from Carroll Avenue. So we thought it was important to push the building closer to the intersection. There's a sidewalk there. It's very close, obviously, right next to the university. So more pedestrian-friendly, have the building a little bit closer to the intersection instead of all the parking in front. It would look better. So they are meeting the 40-foot setback on Lincoln Highway. Access, as mentioned, they will maintain the existing full curb cut on Carroll Avenue. The existing full access on Lincoln Highway will be changed to a right-in, right-out access. They'll have to get approval through IDOT. Right across the street at the police station, there's a right-in, right-out that the city had to put in. So I imagine it would have a similar type design as that one, but they'll need to take the plans through IDOT for their approval on that. But it's very close to the intersection, so right in, right out is more, in terms of safety, would be what we were looking for there. Parking formulas apply here regarding the restaurants based on the number of seats and the number of employees on the maximum shift, and they provided that information. So the rest of the commercial space, not knowing what that is, we do have a general category, commercial service facilities and retail sales uses. That's one space for every 250 square feet. Per the UDO floor area, the floor area that's used to, when you apply the formula, is a net floor area. So you take the gross and you can take out restrooms, areas primarily for storage, mechanical rooms, you take that out. And the applicant's taken out 30% from the gross to get a net, or the floor area per our definition, and came up with a parking requirement of 35 spaces. There's 24 required for the restaurant and 11 for the remaining commercial. And on the site, there's 31 parking spaces. So they are 4 parking spaces short per our requirement. Now, looking at that, staff's in support of approving this waiver of 4 spaces. There's going to be a lot of walk-up traffic from students compared to if it was a site out in Sycamore Road, of course. So that's going to reduce the number of vehicles there. In addition, the restaurant parking formula that's based on the number of employees on the maximum shift They indicated 10 employees, which is going to be on the weekend nights, when more than likely the other commercial uses are not going to be at their peak parking demand. And the applicant also indicated that half the 10 employees will be drivers, so they're going to be out, delivering pizzas and not going to be sitting in the parking lot very much. There's also some, about 8 spaces on Carroll Avenue, public spaces just to the north of there that would be available too. There's no overnight parking allowed there, though. The applicant so the owner and the applicant's fine with the number of spaces. They're comfortable with that 31. The staff is too. They did provide a option alternate plan that added, and it's up in front of you tonight, that shows 5 parallel parking spaces on the west side of the site, and which would meet the ordinance in terms of number of parking spaces. Staff had some concern about that location of those due to a couple things. One is the delivery trucks that would go through the site, and the other plan that's up in front of you shows the turning templates for trucks going through the site. If they had that wider turn, there would be a potential conflict with those parking cars over there. So, in addition, the sidewalk on the west side of the building with that change would go from 5 feet to about 2.5 feet. So there will be some people, parking in the back that will be walking around the west side, so we want to maintain a good sidewalk width. So that's an option if the commission wants to do that, but as a staff and the applicant owner is fine with the parking as laid out. Parking setbacks, there was initial reduction of the 10-foot required setback for parking from Lincoln Highway. They've modified the plan to meet that 10-foot. There's a couple small areas where that does infringe. At the very southeast parking spot is about 5 feet from the right-of-way. That right-of-way is cut diagonal, very unusual there because of the intersection, so it does infringe in a small area there. And the parking turnaround at that southern parking area, need cars to turn around, that is about 7 feet from the right-of-way. So there's a couple small areas where that parking does infringe in that 10-foot setback. But besides that, they meet the setback on the Lincoln and Carroll, and then also the interior and rear yard. They meet the parking setback, which is 5 feet. The landscape plan, photometric plan are required. They were submitted. They meet the ordinance for the landscape and the photometrics. They actually have additional 27 shrubs beyond what's required. They're using there's a line of shrubs on the north side of the site existing they're going to maintain, and there's a fence there too. They're going to keep that. On the west side next to McDonald's, they're using the option of a 3-foot-high continuous hedgerow instead of the combination of shrubs and shade trees. They're going to have a continuous hedgerow there, so that's per the UDO and Loud. And they also have some additional landscaping in the parking lot islands than what's required. And the owner will be providing a $5,000 donation for decorative street lighting along Lincoln Highway. We did that with the Casey's and also the Sonic, which are on Lincoln Highway. Architectural elevations, the applicant went through and they had the sample board that with the materials on there. Waivers to the UDO went over the parking and building setbacks and the parking requirement. There's a couple more in planned development districts, commercial zone sites. There's a max site coverage of 70%. That can be increased if some criteria are met in the UDO. The site coverage is, of course, the buildings, parking, and does not include the sidewalks per the definition. So looking at some of the criteria, they do have additional landscaping in the parking lot islands by more than 50%. The loading area is in the back, not in the front area. And the comp plan, it meets several of the goals, policies of the comp plan, everywhere from using planned developments to allow flexibility in design of a site, redevelopment of existing developments. This will add to the property tax, sales tax base to the city, promoting infill development, and also protecting and enhancing the local economic, social, and cultural climate of the city. Also, planned developments required to be over 2 acres. This is 0.7 acres. We've had a couple other recent projects that were under 2 acres and were approved, the Cornerstone, Plaza DeKalb, and 1114 Blackhawk. That's the fraternity up at Blackhawk that had a planned development, but that was under 2 acres too. So there's a precedent for approving those. The plans, you have the latest plans in front of you tonight. Staff looked at them, of course, sent comments out. The applicant submitted revisions. and the staff's gone through those, and I'll go through the summary of the remaining comments. Every rezoning, we go through standards for rezoning that are in the UDO. First one is, does the rezoning, is it conform to the comprehensive plan and the recommendations there? Which it does. The comp plan calls for commercial, of course, for this property. So the redevelopment of the project will comply with the comp plan with commercial uses. Rezoning conform to the intent and purpose of the UDO, which it does. There are some waivers recommended for approval, and they are needed because of the uniqueness of the site. It's a redevelopment site. It's a little bit smaller. It's a location next to the university. It's on a corner lot, and for aesthetic reasons, they need to infringe on the setback on Carroll Avenue. Proposed rezoning will not have a significant effect on the, a detrimental effect on the surrounding area. The area is fully developed already. This is a redevelopment of a restaurant use to a restaurant and commercial use. And there's adequate public facilities already serving the site. Again, the access off of Carroll will be maintained. The access off Lincoln Highway will be converted to right in, right out. And they'll be making donation regarding future decorative street lighting on Lincoln Highway. Also, some standards for planned developments. We make sure that planned developments don't provide inadequate or unsafe access to the planned development itself. Again, the access points I discussed. Traffic volumes exceeding the anticipated capacity. We don't want planned developments doing that. Of course, Lincoln Highway has full, plenty of capacity for commercial development. There's already a commercial project on the site. It will not have an undue burden on the school or park district. Our police and fire have reviewed the plans and approve. Developments compatible with the UDO, and it will not have a detrimental effect on the surrounding area, as stated before. We did get one citizen comments. It was submitted prior to the hearing from the owners at 858 West Lincoln Highway. That's the Junction Shopping Center, indicating, and you have a copy in your packets, indicating they do not support the proposal because they have concerns with the size and improvements based on the site size, indicating that the parking and parking setbacks could be an issue. So we have a sample motion that was handed out. I'll just go through that. It recommends approval based on the findings of fact of the rezoning for the site, and also references the development plans and development standards listed in Exhibit A. Exhibit A has plans, dates that are in front of you tonight. Development standards, it refers to the general commercial district in terms of the permitted special uses, all the other standards, and then it notes the waivers, which we just went through. And then Exhibit B is the remaining comments that should be, we're going to require that they be addressed and approved by staff prior to the council taking any final action. So we just went through these. They're minor in nature. There's a few planning and zoning comments remaining just regarding labeling. The sidewalk, we've asked for the sidewalk along Lincoln Highway to be expanded north up to the right-of-way line to get more width on the sidewalk, not bring it closer to the road, but just widen out a little bit further to the north across the site. The ground sign looks like they probably need to relocate a little bit. It's in the site distance triangle, looks like, based on the latest plan. There's some calculations on the wall signs to make sure it meets our UDO, probably needs a little modification. Condition that they donate the $5,000 for the street lighting, and that, based on the other ones, we require that to be paid within 1 year after approval of the ordinance. Just note that future tenants, as they come in beyond the restaurant, any future tenants would have to provide a floor plan showing the floor area per our definition to make sure that they do not exceed the parking as set here. So they'd have to, we do that pretty much for any new use that comes in, but we want to make it particular here because the floor area is going to have to be, about 30% of the gross is going to have to be taken out and used for storage or bathrooms or something. So we have that in there to make sure that they're going to comply in the future with that parking requirement. And then final review and approval by the city engineer, fire department, and the sanitary district. They had some remaining comments on those, and we'll get the plans back out to them. And there's some revisions that the applicants are working on. So that all will be resolved. We're requiring before the council takes final action. certainly happy to answer any questions you may have, and with the handouts or anything else regarding the project.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me. So now I open it up to the public hearing portion. If there's anybody who would like to comment on the item, we welcome you to go to the podium.
I did hand out one speaker's form to you.
Yeah, it was for the general, for the public
Oh,
participation.
not for this item. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so there being none, I open it up to the commissioners for questions or comments. Questions. I'll start with Jerry.
Who can we question?
Either.
Dan, you talked about one comment letter. What were some of the issues in that? I didn't get that from the
There was
junction
we did
folks.
provide the comment letter from our engineer in your packets, and their response letter. The engineering or the comments that
It's on the last.
planning
From
had?
the junction folks.
Oh, that was it. Should be at the very end of the packet,
Last page.
this is last page.
Of the main packet.
I pretty much read right off what they commented on.
It's basically on parking and setbacks.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have anything else, Jerry?
No, that's it.
No. Okay. Yeah. No? Katerina?
Well, I like if that, I walk across there, I work at Northern, so I walk across there from time to time, and it's pretty ugly right now. So that would be nice. But my concern is with the two new businesses. They're all around there. If you look, there's several empty storefronts in the junction, further down where the Starbucks is. I think there's something empty now. And then with that Sweet Dream, Sweet Cake, whatever, I think there's some empty storefronts too. So it would be nice to know who would move in there before this all gets accepted, so we don't have like 2 more empty storefronts, and that's kind of a blight.
Well, I don't do the leasing. So I said I don't do the leasing. You know, as I was speaking, you know, earlier about the Starbucks building, you know, I guess it's set so far back, its visibility with the trees and the islands and of course just the buildings around it. It doesn't surprise me that there's some empty spaces there. The visibility of this building is, I mean, you could see it from quite a ways, I think, because, I mean, that corner is very visible. And pushing it to the side that we did, you know, gets it out of the shadow of the McDonald's there. So, I mean, I can't tell you who's going to move in. I don't know, you know, what the owners leasing people are doing right now with that. I mean, I could talk to them about it and see if there's anything that we have or they're looking at right now, and you know, pass that along to Dan. But I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
So
but I understand the question.
So the recommendation is for the general commercial district, whatever uses are permitted there and special would be allowed here. So maybe, could be an office, could be retail, any use that's permitted in the general commercial could go there. If it's a special use, they'd have to go through the special use process. So they'd like to have retail, but they don't have any lined up. So, so what we looked at was to make sure that the parking would be addressed. Whatever use would go in there would have to comply with those floor area requirements, not exceed that. And they indicated a restaurant would not, they're not going to want a restaurant there, and that would, regardless of that too, that would require so much additional parking, they wouldn't have enough. So.
That question I did ask the owner, who do you want there? And he he said no restaurant, business
That makes
or retail was his answer, so. But, and I understand that there have been some inquiries on it, but I don't know who they are. I think.
So is there a local owner?
that-
The person who's redoing it, is that local?
No,
No?
they have, they own, they're a franchise. They own a number of sites around the country.
Because I
We just,
wonder-
but we're doing quite a few for him up in Illinois, Chicago, some in Indiana, some, in fact, we're just breaking ground in Crete on a new building for him. So
Because I
he's,
just wonder what
but
the
he's not,
market research was about that, because if you look around DeKalb, you see all those empty storefronts. And then just build 2 more to stand empty. I mean, it's not my money. But
right. Yeah,
It's a
I don't
contrarian
know.
investor. A contrarian investor. So
Yeah.
things are down, you invest, and wait for things to go up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
My turn. I have a few comments more than anything else. One of my questions originally was going to be in the line of what my fellow commissioner asks regarding what goes into those spaces. Certainly interesting to know that the owner is not interested in a second restaurant, but that would be what I would call a negative vision. So it tells us what we don't want. I will be more interested in a positive vision. So what are we thinking there? And it seems to me that you don't have the answer. Is that fair to say?
No, like I said, I talked to him about it, and retail meaning, clothing store, card, Hallmark. I don't know if those are still around or not, but, type store, something like that. But, they're not putting restrictions on the type of retail as long as it's allowed, by the city.
Correct. So I have a question that is more directed to the city more than anything else,
Okay.
and that is, so I think I understand the right in, right out design. It is right across the street in the police station, and if I am not mistaken, please correct me if I'm mistaken, there is a similar situation, arrangement, design in the Walgreens, in the intersection of First and Lincoln Highway, on the Lincoln
Right.
Highway side.
Yeah.
It's funny, and I realize this is beyond this particular proposal, but I feel there's plenty of sarcasm there. I've seen so many times people turning left into the road or turning into this area in both Walgreens and on the police station. So it's kind of, I read that paragraph and it's like, I recognize the intention of the design, but at the same time, I would like to see that a bit more enforced on both the police station, ironically, and in Walgreens. So, just as a general comment, I don't think the parking situation is going to break this specific proposal. I appreciate that that they came up with a second design, adding a few parking spots, and I also recognize that there is a potential problem there with a truck turning. If I am not mistaken, in this newer, actually, let me go to the design that does not have the additional parking spaces, that only has 31 parking spaces. I am curious, in the northwest corner of that building, if I am, let's say that I park in the back, and I am walking on the west side of the building, is this a situation where I have to literally step on the road in order to go around this little corner? Am I seeing that correctly? Or?
Are you talking about the one with the fewer spaces, right?
The design, I have one of the sheets that came today, I think is that.
That's the one without the parallel spaces.
Yeah.
Right, okay. We have a sidewalk all the way around the building.
So even on
On
that,
that-
I'm trying to understand that little corner, so there's so many lines there, I just want to make sure I got it right. So there is a space there, and that I can go, I never stand on the street in order to go around that corner. Is that a fair statement? Is that correct?
I'm sorry, which corner are we?
I'm sorry, northwest corner
Okay.
of the building.
The northwest triangle. that triangle on the north. the-
He's asking
Yeah,
to
the-
ensure that there's adequate, at least 3 or 4 feet of walk around that corner? Or is the building infringing?
It's just that there are a number of lines here, and that's why I'm a little confused. Yeah.
It does almost look like the way the corner of the building hits, and I see what David's saying now, it is hard to see because of the lines.
And I actually,
There's
it
not
really comes
that
down to the
much
fact that I
space.
don't know if, the dash line is superimposed, Mr.
That's a
Olson.
setback, yeah.
That's a setback. So if I
Right.
take that out of there, there's still a line there. And I'm right here.
So see that.
There's adequate access. The corner of the building
Yes.
is the diagonal line.
It says 13, I think.
That's the sidewalk, and what is beyond on the left of
I
those
don't know.
dots?
That's a good question, because
So
I think that's your question.
the reason I bring this up is because I have found myself parking on the back of McDonald's, for example, the McDonald's that is just there, and then walking to the restaurant, you end up walking on the street, and it's not fun.
Basically,
That's the corner there.
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah. I can't,
this-
if I had a laser. The corner of the building, see the hatching on this plan? That's the extent of the building. So, beyond that is the sidewalk, all the way around. The number 1, and you could, with this plan anyway, there's a hatching on there that's kind of concrete, quote unquote.
Where I see the number 1, is that a sidewalk? Or
Yes,
is that
that's
is part of the
sidewalk.
sidewalk?
Yes,
That's
sir.
not part of the building.
That's correct, yes, sir. Sidewalk.
That was a
Okay.
confusing
Okay.
piece.
So then this answered my question, and please, the commissioners, I would appreciate your help. You do not step on the street in order to go around that corner.
That's correct.
So where it says 13, that's the sidewalk?
No, 13 is planting. It's, so 1, if you follow, you see where you're looking at 13, just look to the right and go down towards the building, you see another 1 there. That dashed line is your setback line, so don't pay attention to that. The hatching that you see in the building, and I'm not sure which plan you're looking at, but the one up on the screen.
We're looking at the same thing.
Okay.
right now, right?
Okay, here.
The hatching shows the extent of the building. Where it stops, that's the exterior wall of the
Okay.
building.
So this seems to be.
And then beyond that.
Is
the-
landscaping.
The open white space is the landscaping.
Yeah.
That's correct.
You look at the
Yes.
landscape plan, shows that pretty well.
Yeah.
I understood for one second
didn't
that
get
that is
that.
landscaping,
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
if
The
I am
landscape
standing
plan
number
shows it.
1 and I look immediately to my left, is that a landscaping?
Yeah, landscaping area.
The landscape plan, do you have that up in front of you? Shows
Yeah.
it the best in terms of
So it's
landscaping the walk.
13 is the landscaping,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that's,
Thank you very much.
I thought that was a concrete area. So I know where you
Good
were asking, you were
point.
thinking, that little itty bitty corner,
Correct.
are they gonna, is that
I-
enough sidewalk
I
there?
just
Yeah.
don't want to jump to the
Yeah.
street. It's as simple as that.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. I guess the last comment that I have, I already made it to our planner, Mr. Olson, earlier today, and I make it now in public. This is, I think, not necessarily for this proposal, but at a very general, more global level, I am a big fan of walking on sidewalks, and it is, in the city of DeKalb, not exactly a pleasant experience to walk on Lincoln Highway. If you ask me about the overall long-term vision about DeKalb, I would really like to see wider sidewalk, particularly on Lincoln Highway. This is not something for Pizza Hut to resolve right now, but I do appreciate that there are some items about this proposal that, at least for that small section, expand the sidewalk, but this is something that personally concerns me as just a regular citizen in the city of DeKalb. So, having said that, I pass it on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I actually have questions about the parking. So with the landscaping, and I understand that there's a certain amount of landscaping that is required by the city. But with the parking aspect of it, not that we necessarily would want to add maybe more in that area, but that down in the lower, so the southwest corner, where that big patch of landscaping is, on the other side of the driveway, at the entrance and exit. And then again, over on the no, I'm sorry, the southeast corner, is there any opportunity to add parking there, or because of the landscaping requirements, we would need to have the landscaping in that area?
They did have on a previous plan, I think it showed on a landscape plan that was in your packets, 2 parking spaces at the southwest corner, but we felt with cars backing out, that would conflict with truck turning around there, so we
Okay,
asked them to remove that and put that in landscaping.
okay,
In terms of the southeast corner, they would be encroaching further in the setback, adding parking, and they need that turnaround area. Since that is a dead end, they need that paved area, so I don't see any area to add parking.
okay.
To be honest, probably the only additional, if there's some desire, demand, as they, go in the future and start operating to add parking, would probably be the parallel spaces, as the only area that I could see that, where if needed, maybe some could be, a couple added along that at the right locations, perhaps, so. I don't know, the applicant may have some other ideas on things
So-
they looked at for additional parking and what worked and what didn't work, and.
I mean, since we did have those 2 here, I mean, I think that would probably be the first go-to, because if we come in with the parallel, where we're showing them in that alternate plan, we don't really have we don't end up with the 22-foot for two-way along that side of the building. We would have to take away some landscaping and sidewalk, and we'd rather not do that.
And that even then
And-
takes away your sidewalk area some too, if you had to.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and,
And I
I
gotta-
think, as we've discussed here,
Actually
we'd
takes
rather
out the
not do that.
sidewalk.
And I got a feeling the right-in, right-out, if you look at the aerial on page 2, the right-in, right-out, they've just shown a simple little pork chop right-in, right-out there, but once I go through the review of IDOT, I've got a feeling that's going to be a little bit larger and look similar to what the police station have. You look at the aerial, they're going to probably need
So
that
then they'd have to
width.
go into that,
They may
yeah.
have to go in that landscape area, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So given the fact that you don't know what is going to go into the other 2 areas, how, I know this is going to seem like a trick question, but how can we ensure that there's adequate parking?
The,
I mean, I get that they don't want a restaurant, so that, that would change the parking spaces needed. But
There'll be
let's
a-
say there's a retail area that goes into that middle section.
there's a standard on Exhibit B, and it's going to be shown on the plan, too.
Okay.
Any future tenant, when they come in, they have to show a floor area of what, where's the storage, where's the retail area, where's the
Right.
restrooms, where's the mechanical rooms. And that's got to be calculated out, and they can't exceed
So
that
much.
30% requirement. So,
And you did mention that, okay.
so that is a condition that will be in the ordinance. We do that pretty much any new use that comes in. We check the parking to make sure they're meeting it. And so they use the 30% reduction as kind of a guide, and any future ones, they're going to have to meet that requirement. That will be a requirement before they can go in there, so.
How is it determined how many handicap spaces?
It's a state accessibility code. It's based on number of parking spaces that you have on a site,
Okay.
and I think, I don't recall offhand, but they're only required 2 I think it's up to 50.
Yeah, up to after 50.
Yeah, required 2,
Mhm.
so they have the required amount.
Is there any opportunity to do a handicap space in the back?
We could,
The handicap are required to be as close as possible to the front, the doors where the public accesses it, so
Sure,
I don't know
right.
if it'd meet the code if it was one in the
Okay.
back, but
That was just a
Correct.
question I was
it's going to be
curious about.
employee
it-
parking entrances mostly, right?
that's correct,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, we could do
Okay.
one in the back, but we would end up taking away another space
Yeah.
because we have to have that
It won't
access
gain any
aisle next to it.
parking
So
spaces.
the parking in the back, based on what you just said, is mainly going to be for employees?
I would assume so,
So
based on
no entrance from the back into the locations?
not a public entrance, no.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct.
And this just seems, and similar to what Mr. Castro said earlier, I think there's just a lot of lines on here, but are the spaces of the parking stalls all the same? The width? I know,
Yeah, they, 9
Yes.
feet, which is a minimum standard,
okay.
and they're all either 19 foot long or 18.
Right.
Well,
18
well,
with an
you look up
18 with
here
an
and there's
overhang.
9 feet here, and then there's a line, and it looks like that parking spot is for a motorcycle or
Yeah, they
something.
all have to be 9 feet. The length, you can have it 18 foot if you have a 1 foot overhang,
Okay,
where you're not encroaching on landscaping or a pedestrian way, or it could be 19 is our standard length, so. And the-
so, sorry.
And the driveway width between the spaces, parking is a minimum of 24 feet, which they do have there.
Okay. If we were to say that we like the second, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but the picture with the parallel parking, so I noticed, because obviously you've got to have a little more width, a little more area for the drive and the parking. I noticed that landscape, well, one, you lose the sidewalk on that side of the building, which goes back to Mr. Castro's question, which I agree probably isn't a good thing. But is that little island tip out there down in the southwest corner, is there a requirement as to how big that has to be? Because obviously you lose space, you lose some landscaping
You're looking at
area.
the parking, the plan with the parallel parking spaces?
Yeah, on the west side of the building.
Is there a minimum width of the sidewalk?
No,
Of the
of that
landscape
landscape
island?
area, yeah.
Usually I think usually we require at least 5 feet. I mean, that width is pretty narrow. I'm not sure what to even grow in there.
Could that
Certainly not a tree.
landscaping be replaced with the sidewalk?
It's still not wide enough for a sidewalk. We would have to
Yeah, I
reduce
think
the
they're
size
about-
of the building to
Yeah.
do that.
Okay,
But
The walk's only like 2.5 feet at that, on that plan.
okay. That's
Right.
what I was
They'd
trying
have
to
to cut
figure out. It's
back
hard
in
to
the-
tell,
In the
so,
building.
okay. Oh, never mind. Well, no. In the plans without the parallel parking, so the one with the driving, you're showing us the turns and everything. Down in the southeast area of that parking lot, there's number 8 there, right off the parking lot, that states it's a curb, but it's not in the other drawing. Is there,
It's a landscape island with a curb.
so is there a reason why it's not in the other one? Is it because things shifted a little bit, or?
That's in the one with the parallel and the other one. It's in both. The plans are in
Oh,
your
it's
packet.
just the way that the line, okay, sorry. It's the way that the lines are.
Yeah.
I thought that
That's a
indicated
curved
it was
landscape
something.
island.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. There's so much to look at these. The sign. So I noticed there was something in here about, the sign should be relocated, so it's out of the sight distance triangle and at least 18 feet from the right-of-way. So where the sign is
18
current-
inches, sorry.
Or 18 inches?
Yeah.
Where it's currently situated on both of the plans, is that where it would remain, or it would be
No, they're going to
relocated?
relocate it from there. It's too close to the driveway. They're gonna
So
have to-
where would it get relocated to?
They probably have to move it east a little bit, so it's not a visibility issue.
Okay. Would it go back then a little?
It could go back. The sight distance triangle, I think it's 25 feet from the edge of curb, both, and then you draw a triangle, 25 feet each way, then you kind of connect them.
Because I will say, that has been a concern of mine down in the corner of Annie Glenn and Lincoln Highway, as well as, there's another place that I've pulled out that I've noticed has been, and I know it was brought up
Yeah.
when we reviewed the Brian Bemis.
Yeah, they'll have to move that.
That seems really far forward, and trying to see around in that busy intersection or area, the busy area.
Yeah.
And as I had talked prior to the meeting, the speed limit of the cars recently, I've seen cars fly through that intersection when the light has turned yellow. And I'm concerned of the restriction of sight for the sign.
Yep.
And so I would request that you really consider where that placement of the sign is, and then it's back enough for that first vehicle that stopped there. when you've got cars coming in, you've got cars coming down Lincoln Highway, you've got a stoplight there, you've got cars potentially are going to go into that entrance even though they're not supposed to. There's a lot there, and having a sign blocking your vision concerns me. So I just, I ask that you consider that when
Absolutely.
you're considering
It's
the placement of the sign.
condition number 3 in Exhibit B, it is listed there, but
Did
I
you
hear what
say
you're saying.
18 feet or?
It's 18 inches.
18 inches.
So
Sorry.
that's a typo there?
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
forgot a
I've
dash.
seen a lot of accidents further down Lincoln Highway. Don't know if that's the reason, but I certainly have had some
Yep.
issues pulling out of there, so,
Agree, yep.
okay. I think that's it. Anybody else on the commission for questions before I read? Yep.
What is the square footage of the retail spaces?
4,000 about.
4,000?
Yeah,
Yeah, each.
2,000 apiece?
correct, yeah. Well, I mean, not knowing who's going to go in there, it was just an assumption, somebody might take 3,000.
Somebody might say.
Yeah, to leave 1,000 left over, but, yeah, it's just a little over 4,000 square feet. Now, that's leasable. Obviously, you go into the usable square footage, you're taking away the wall thickness and so forth,
All right.
so.
Have you done a building for this, similar to this, for this same,
For this client?
contractor?
Yeah, we've worked on a few for them, yes.
That would have a Pizza Hut and a couple of retail spaces?
Yes.
And what other things have gone into those, do you know?
I don't, no, sorry.
All right.
I can ask.
Okay, all right.
Can I ask them? So the way the retail space is set up is like two businesses of about the same size, about 2,000
Yes, ma'am.
feet,
Yeah.
right? But then you said one could have 3,000 feet.
Yes, ma'am, I do retail a lot, and of course,
Yeah.
you could just go into a building, build your demising wall, give yourself, just depending on what the landlord is leasing you.
But then the way it looks from the outside, it's like preset for two.
It is, yeah, we've got it set up in the back doors as well. Mm-hmm, yes.
So doesn't it then kind of look weird if you have one taking 3,000?
Well, no,
and then-
if I'm going in, no, I'm not sure how that would look weird. The outside still looks the same. I mean, if you need to move a front door, you can move a front door.
Okay.
Do that all day long with, or put them in. I mean, I've had to put them in just because the space was never designed to have another entry. And, that's what's left over, and the client only needed that much square footage. So, and also, I mean, it could just be one tenant that goes in and takes the rest of the building. Clothing store perhaps, but, in that case, they would probably want to close off the second entry.
I have one final comment. One final comment, Mr. Olson, you may know the answer to my first question. Recently, the university changed its parking policy, and I think they allow anybody to park in the university parking areas starting at 5 in the afternoon. Is that a correct statement?
They changed it again to 7.
They changed it back to 7?
Yeah, because with choir, you can't have choir till 7:15.
Well, this is news to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand, there's a parking deck just right down Carroll Avenue, which
Correct.
I think, sounds like they do allow some regular general parking after certain hours, so that would be,
Correct. So the reason I
Additional
was
options.
asking, now there's some uncertainty at what time exactly the general public can park, but I'm bringing this up because, again, across the street, there is a parking area there for the university, and when reading about the parking, I was not as concerned because of the existence of this parking space that is available after certain hours and during the weekends. That is, again, just a general comment from my part. Thank you.
Was there?
one note to the approval of the plans in Exhibit A does not include the floor plan, so they want to approve a specific layout because there could be different tenants coming in and options, so. But again, when somebody does approach the city, wants to come in, they'll have to provide all the details, the floor plan showing the square footages, and to make sure they do meet that parking requirement, so.
Was there a consideration of the building going the long way, kind
Yeah.
of similar to what it is now?
Yeah, I did look at that very early on, but with the setbacks and, you know, it made it, I would be here asking for, you know, the same variances, I suppose, you know, waivers. But I think the way we have it situated is a much more friendly building to passersby. I think if it turned, then they'd be walking a lot further, and you're not facing the main street at that point. So we just felt, you know, aesthetically for the site and the friendliness of the site, if you will, that its orientation now is the best. So.
Okay. That was a curious question. I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I open one last time to the public, if there's anyone that would like to make a comment or ask questions. There being none, I close the public hearing. Excuse me. Commissioners, any further comments or questions? No? Okay. If none, I'll be happy to take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Based upon the submitted petition and testimony presented, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward its finding of fact and recommend that the City Council approve of the zoning map amendment from the GC General Commercial District to the PDC Plan Development Commercial District and approval of the Plan Development Plan for a .71 acre site located at 701 West Lincoln to allow for an approximately 6,400 square foot commercial building that will include a Pizza Hut restaurant and other commercial uses with associated improvements per the Plan Development Plans and Development Standards listed in Exhibit A, and subject to all staff comments being addressed prior to final City Council action as listed in Exhibit B.
Second.
Motion made by Kroll, second by Wright. Any discussion? There being none, I'll take a roll call.
All right. Katharina Barbie,
Yes.
Vicki Buckley, David Castro,
Yes.
Matthew Kroll,
Yes.
Deborah Neer, Jerry Wright,
Yes.
Chair Christina Atherton.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Reports.
Next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is May 23rd. No public hearings yet. We may have a regular agenda item or plan review, but, and then the next meeting, or the two meetings in June will be June 6th and 20th. Couple items the commission made recommendations on will be in front of the council for the meeting next Monday. 1114 Blackhawk with amendment to the site plan and the commercial kitchen will be on for consideration, as well the commercial properties on Pappas Drive where we amended the ordinance to add the permitted and special uses. That will be under consideration on Monday night too in front of the council.
Okay.
That is
If
all.
nothing further, I'll be happy to take a motion for adjournment.
Do you want to have
Oh.
comment?
Oh, yes. If you would like to make your
Think we can
comment,
open
you're
it.
welcome to.
I
It's
think we
okay.
can, do we need to move to change the agenda? Allow public comment now?
Sure, just to be safe.
So I move that we amend the agenda such that we allow public participation after our reports.
Motion made by Kroll. I'm sorry, Castro?
Second.
Second by Kroll.
There.
No person.
Second by Kroll, no pressure. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Nope, you're not. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Go. Thank you for your service, first of all.
You're welcome.
What you're going to hear is something that you heard before, and I'm on a mission. Bessie Chronopoulos, 423 Gale Avenue. I'm on a mission to try to see some improvements, changes with our various boards and commissions. Some boards and commissions maybe don't follow similar procedures. You do quite well here with the recording and so on. You have name tags and all of that, so that's good, you know, that allows the public to interact. But not all boards and commissions do that, so I'm trying to see if the mayor and council will look at kind of unifying those, how the boards and commissions work so they could be utilized to their fullest. There are some things, though, that I would love to see this commission do. And I'm fairly active in going to the Economic Development Commission, and I have noticed that this commission, the EDC and the landmarks are very much related in what they do. And it would be nice if there would be a little bit more interaction and cooperation in some way, shape, or form between those three commissions. Because after all, you're after the same thing, how things are developed, how things are zoned, taking into account the historical aspects, and of course, as the mayor has said, the economic aspects of making the right decisions as to what's good for our community. So, you know, I'm going to be talking to the mayor about this and to the council, trying to encourage that type of, and I've talked to Joe Ellen a little bit, I think I've maybe mentioned it to you as well, to see a little bit more interaction, cooperation. Another way to do that is to have liaisons, council liaisons. This commission could probably have a liaison from the Park District, which would be a good thing too, because they're involved in the development process. So that's kind of what I'm suggesting, and hopefully maybe we'll see a little bit more interaction, because the whole idea with boards and commissions is to have the participants as engaged as possible so that the council can know as much as possible from its volunteers. So that's, and maybe we can talk more, Christine, at some point on details.
It has been something that I've mentioned as well, so.
We'll get there.
Yep.
Thank
We will,
you.
eventually. Thank you, Bessie. Okay. Now, I'll take an adjournment motion.
So moved.
So moved by
Second.
Barbie, second by Castro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
18 days.
Yeah,
Nothing coming.